1 year to go until Britain leaves the European Union. Theresa May today is visiting Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and England to spread her message that Brexit can make the whole UK stronger.
But amid cabinet splits and dragging negotiations, is it all just window dressing? Joining us now live from Westminster is the Housing Minister and Brexiteer Dominic Raab. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining. It looks like a beautiful day there in Parliament Square, the sun's shining and clearly, you know, if you listen to Boris Johnson, he's saying our national journey out of the EU is almost over. A glorious view awaits. However, Theresa May has a job on her hands, hasn't she, to reunite or unite a country which is still very much divided over the fact that we are leaving in a year.
Well, look, we've made some progress at the halfway point. The economy has fared better than expected. The diplomacy is going better than some had feared. We've got that first phase deal important for securing the rights of EU nationals here, UK expats abroad, and the implementation period, which is important for business certainty. So we can go into these second half of negotiations on trade talks with some real economic self-confidence and, yes, some political ambition. And what the Prime Minister's doing today is reaching out to all four corners of the Union and talking to factory workers, businesses, parent and toddler group, and making the case not just about the progress we've made face to face, but also why we can go to the future with real optimism.
Now, you mentioned that the economy is doing better than I thought, but looking at some of the figures that we've got here, it's already cost us more than £200 million a week in lost growth. According to the Governor of the Bank of England, the UK will need to find an additional £55 billion in borrowing by 2033. We know that we're going to be faced with this divorce bill of £37 billion, something that no one was expecting. The £350 million that everybody was promised would be there for week in, week out for the NHS, we now know isn't going to exist as well. So even though you're saying the economy is doing better than expected, there's still some serious questions to be answered, isn't there?
Well, there's certainly some hard yards to go in the negotiations, but I don't accept the selective facts that you just put out there. In terms of leaving the EU, of course, when we get and settle our accounts, we'll be taking back control of our money and we'll be net beneficiaries by not being in the EU, notwithstanding the money that we will still continue to pay for the short term. In terms of the economy, the data today on consumer confidence is very promising, and the Bank of England itself has said real wages will rise this year. That's very important for the feel-good factor of the economy. In terms of the negotiations, all focus now will be on those trade talks, and there's a real possibility here for a win-win deal with the EU. Trade's good for the UK, it's good for the EU, it's good for all four corners of the United Kingdom, and I think that's why the Prime Minister's right to be taking that positive message out to all four corners of the country and making sure that people feel that we're carrying everyone with us.
When are we going to get £350 million a week for the NHS?
Oh, let's not rake over the coals of the old spats of the
promises
referendum.
in the referendum.
350 million was the gross contribution. The net figure is about half that. And yes, a significant amount of that should go towards public service investment.
Hang on. It was on the side of a bus. We heard Nigel Farage the morning after the referendum from a different part of the Leave campaign saying that that promise should never have been made. Do you agree with him now?
I said at the time during the referendum I thought that the poster was sloppy, but it's correct to say that the contribution, the gross contribution, was 350 million. And of course, when we leave the EU and we take back control of our money, we will be in a position to invest more in our vital public services and take advantage. And on the one point you raised about whether people were swung by that, actually it's very clear from all the polling, the #1 reason people voted to leave the EU is to be master of our own destiny, take back control over our laws, our borders and our money. And that's precisely what we're going to do.
If you're describing that pledge as sloppy, would you go as far as to say it was a lie?
No, I said the poster I thought was a bit sloppy, and I said that during the referendum campaign because, of course, we were asked this question week in, week out, so it wasn't like there wasn't any scrutiny around it by the likes of ITV, Andrew Neil, all of the top presenters asking those questions, and we explained it very clearly. I did about half a dozen times, but the reality is people want to see us put the referendum wrangles behind us. The latest BMG poll shows by 3 to 1 people think now, whether they voted Leave or Remain, we've got to respect the referendum and we've got to look forward to the future, and that's the message the Prime Minister's taken today.
While the Prime Minister is going around trying to reunite the country, isn't it a sign of how divided and bitter people still are? That we have people who campaigned to leave admitting that posters, which may have persuaded people, were sloppy. People feel like, some people might feel like they were lied to, frankly, on both sides of the campaign. And the Prime Minister, meanwhile, has to bring everybody together.
So
how would you describe the way that the country's divided?
So I think in the Westminster bubble and amongst the media, we're still wrangling over this in the way we have been since the referendum. In the country at large, the polling shows, and I cited that BMG poll, that by 3 to 1, people want the referendum put behind us, look to the future, and above all, get on with Brexit and make a success of it. And that's exactly what we're doing.